MTG becomes a lib. I mean that's what happened this year. She got a little bit out of shape because the president wouldn't support her for a statewide office in Georgia, which she was going to lose if she had gotten into it, by the way. And so she goes off the deep end.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is obviously on the right, and the rest of these people are utter frauds.
All right, folks, buckle up. We're diving headfirst into the latest political drama surrounding Marjorie Taylor Greene. And let me tell you, it's a wild ride. The political landscape is more like a demolition derby these days, and MTG is definitely driving a monster truck. We're going to dissect her apparent transformation, her beef with Trump, and the absolute chaos brewing within the right wing. Is she becoming a lib, as some claim, or is she just finally seeing the political swamp for what it is? We'll be pausing to inject some much-needed common sense and maybe a few laughs into this whole spectacle. So, grab your popcorn, because this is going to be good.
In an explosive profile in the New York Times about Marjorie Taylor Greene, she kind of uncovers why she and Donald Trump had the falling out that they've had. And it's a pretty vicious one at that. She says that things really came to a head after the pressure to release the Epstein files came between herself and Donald Trump. Greene says that it was Epstein. Epstein was everything. So that's what she says in this interview with the New York Times. And that Trump was livid that she held a press conference with some of Epstein's victims, and that she threatened to expose some of the other men who were alleged to have abused these girls. So when she urged Trump to invite some of Epstein's female victims to the Oval Office, she says he angrily informed her that they had done nothing to merit the honor. I mean, the guy who can't stop himself from holding endless press conferences with literal war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu thinks that Epstein's victims didn't do anything to earn a visit to the Oval Office. Got it. Okay.
Whoa, hold on a minute. Let's unpack that gem. So, the argument here is that President Trump, a man known for loving a good photo op and shaking hands with anyone who can boost his image, suddenly gets selective about who merits the honor of an Oval Office visit? And the people he deems unworthy? Victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Let that sink in for a second. It's almost comical if it weren't so tragic. We're talking about individuals who have endured unspeakable horrors, and their pleas for justice are met with a dismissive wave of the hand because, apparently, they haven't done anything to earn a seat at the table. Meanwhile, politicians routinely roll out the red carpet for foreign dignitaries, lobbyists, and yes, even figures with controversial pasts, all in the name of political expediency. This isn't just about Trump. It's a glaring symptom of a political class that often prioritizes image and power over genuine empathy and justice. The optics of associating with Epstein's victims might be bad for a politician, but isn't the truth what we're supposed to be after? It's a sad commentary on how easily principles are discarded when they become inconvenient. It's like saying, "You're not famous enough for my pity." Give me a break. These are real people with real trauma, and to suggest they haven't earned a voice is just plain offensive. It shows a profound lack of understanding, or worse, a deliberate disregard for the most vulnerable among us. This isn't just a misstep, it's a moral blind spot.
It would be the last conversation Greene and Trump would ever have. Now, he dubbed her Marjorie Taylor Greene, as we all know. And a day later, she actually received a death threat against her college-aged son, with Trump's new nickname for her in the email subject line. Greene promptly texted that information to the president. According to a source familiar with the exchange, his long reply made no mention of her son. Instead, Trump insulted her in personal terms when she replied that children should remain off limits from their disagreements. Trump responded that she only had herself to blame because he's an unbearable prick, and you should expect him to have a pathetic response like that. Finally, Greene was very upfront about her own shortcomings during this interview with Robert Draper in the New York Times. He asked her, was there ever a point before 2025 where you thought, you know what, Trump acts like a man of the people and he talks about the forgotten men and women of this country, but I'm not so sure? She says, I was just so naive and outside of politics, Greene said with a wince of a smile, that it was easy for me to naively believe. And I relate to that. I definitely, when I was 100% partisan brained, I was naive enough to think that the Democratic Party would somehow be better than the Republicans on the big issues that matter the most, right? Issues of war, issues of the economy, issues related to Israel, for example. But tens of thousands of innocent people were slaughtered under Biden's watch, and there were never any brakes on that car. So I feel her when she says that. Cenk, what about you?
Yeah, so there's a ton of things that we disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on, and now a couple of things we agree on, and I'm glad to have the agreement. But that's not the point. The point is who's being honest with you and who isn't. So I'd rather have an honest person in politics or media that I disagree with more than a dishonest actor, because that dishonest actor who's pretending to agree with me isn't going to do anything they said anyway, right? So that's not to say that, oh, I prefer Marjorie Taylor Greene to a Democrat. I prefer Marjorie Taylor Greene to the other corrupt Republicans who've been screwing us over our entire lifetimes. But what's happening with Marjorie Taylor Greene is really important, not because she's become any less right-wing. I think she's still way more right-wing than Scott Jennings or Mark Levin, et cetera, right? So I think that she's beginning to realize, oh, our own side lies to us, and they don't actually represent our positions. So who represents the right-wing positions more on Epstein files? Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey, who say release them, and we've always wanted them released, or Donald Trump, who says, oh, nobody did anything wrong.
Now, this is where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? The speaker asks, who truly represents the right-wing position on the Epstein files? And the answer, according to them, is clear. MTG and Tom Massey, who demand transparency, versus Trump, who downplays the whole thing. And honestly, they've hit on a fundamental truth here that many in the Republican establishment refuse to acknowledge. For years, we've been told that conservatism stands for accountability, for draining the swamp, for truth and justice. Yet when a real opportunity arises to expose corruption, especially involving powerful figures, suddenly the goalposts move. It's like being promised a guard dog for your house, only to find it's a lapdog when a burglar shows up. The demand to release the Epstein files isn't some fringe, radical idea. It's a call for transparency and justice that should resonate with anyone who believes in the rule of law. But when the man who supposedly leads the charge against the establishment suddenly becomes the establishment protector, it exposes a deep hypocrisy. It's not about being right-wing or left-wing here, it's about being honest versus being a political operative. This is the internal civil war on the right. It's the difference between those who actually want to clean up Washington and those who just want to control the mess. If you truly believe in America first, shouldn't that include putting American citizens, and especially victims, ahead of powerful cronies? This isn't just a disagreement. It's a betrayal of the very principles many conservatives claim to uphold. It's time to call out the frauds, regardless of their party affiliation or how many MAGA hats they wear.
His Justice Department says there were no one else that they would prosecute. They didn't want to release the files. He called it a hoax, et cetera. Well, it's not a question. There's no question about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey definitely represent the right-wing position. Marjorie Taylor Greene is obviously on the right, and the rest of these people are utter frauds.
How does the kind of divide in MAGA, which is a relatively new phenomenon? I mean, there was always a little bit there, but I mean, I don't think, if I were to say what the most surprising story was, I would say Marjorie Taylor Greene becomes not just a Trump critic, but
MTG becomes a lib. I mean, that's what happened this year. She got a little bit out of shape because the president wouldn't support her for a statewide office in Georgia, which she was going to lose if she had gotten into it, by the way. And so she goes off the deep end.
Trump lackey and cable news commentator Scott Jennings took a major jab at Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene over the weekend, accusing her of becoming a lib in 2025. Now, his ridiculous attack comes amid a New York Times profile, a lengthy one at that, on Marjorie Taylor Greene, in which she admitted to being naive about her feelings toward Trump and what he claimed to want to accomplish as president, and even accused Trump of faking his Christianity. Cenk, before we get into the details, your 2 cents?
Yeah, I'm amused by these establishment guys pretending to be more conservative than America first. So that's hilarious. But Marjorie Taylor Greene struck back. We'll give you that as well. So get all the facts here.
Now, in regard to claims that she became a lib, she did respond to that, saying that, oh, look, I'm being lied about again by Bush neocon and Mitch McConnell consultant, Scott Jennings. I have a 98% voting record with Trump, so I guess Scott is calling Trump liberal too. Scott Jennings is everything America First voted against. He just fools people with hot takes. I'd actually agree with that. Now, he's also in the business of kissing Trump's ass, regardless of what he does. And part of that job includes downplaying the civil war that's currently taking place within the right wing, within MAGA. So during his appearance on ABC, he claimed that the internal divisions between America First and the neocons, it's overblown. It's really overblown. Take a look.
Look, I don't think these divisions and all this fraying are as big a deal as some people make it out to be. Trump is still extraordinarily popular among Republicans. He's the strongest party boss in the modern era. And he can get his allies in Congress to do most anything he wants them to do, which is why I think in the coming year, they really ought to spend some time trying to codify, to Rick's point, his executive orders and some of the other initiatives that he's had, really try to make it stick.
But if you've been paying attention, the infighting on the right has been pretty significant, and it's exemplified in part by Robert Draper's explosive profile of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And in it, she breaks down the collapse of her relationship with President Donald Trump. For her, it really began with Charlie Kirk's assassination. I actually thought that portion of this profile on Marjorie Taylor Greene was enlightening, telling, it gave you more insight into her change of heart toward Trump. So at his memorial service, Erica Kirk said that she forgave her late husband's killer. And that message of forgiveness was followed by this.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry.
So I was surprised to see a few notable conservatives who really didn't like that statement. And it turns out Marjorie Taylor Greene happens to be one of them. She says, that was absolutely the worst statement, Greene wrote to me in a text message months after the memorial service. And the contrast between Erica Kirk and the president was clarifying, Marjorie Taylor Greene added, quote, it just shows where his heart is. And that's the difference with her having a sincere Christian faith, and proves that he does not have any faith. And she also said that the incident made her realize that being one of Trump's most voracious attack dogs wasn't actually aligning with what she wants her values to be. She told a friend, after Charlie died, I realized that I'm part of this toxic culture. I really started looking at my faith. I wanted to be more like Christ. Our side has been trained by Donald Trump to never apologize and to never admit when you're wrong. You just keep pummeling your enemies no matter what. And as a Christian, I don't believe in doing that. I agree with Erica Kirk, who did the hardest thing possible and said it out loud. But their feud eventually came to a head over the Epstein files. I can get to those details in just a minute. Before I do, Cenk, any thoughts?
Yeah, one of our members on TYT.com, Nerd Ferguson, made a good point here. They asked Trump his favorite Bible verse, and he said, I kind of like them all. Yeah, that dude ain't a real Christian. So I read that to you for this fight they're having about real Christianity, but also because it affects who's real overall and who isn't.
So conservatives on social media, X in particular, have been voicing their displeasure, their anger at the Trump administration and its failure to essentially carry out Trump's campaign promises. And as a result, they're thinking about fighting back by refusing to pay their taxes. Now, their frustrations extend beyond the failures of the federal government. They're upset with state governments as well. But this sort of disillusionment, and I should be clear, it's really a bipartisan issue. There are plenty of Democratic voters who are very upset with the way the Democratic Party has carried out its duties. And so there's one potential politician who might actually do something about it, which we're going to get to in just a minute. But before we do, let's first explain why conservatives are absolutely fed up and what they're saying on X. For one, right wingers are also furious that Trump hasn't followed through on his campaign promises. So, one of the more vociferous critics of Trump's is Nick Fuentes, and his messaging has kind of taken off on the right. So here's what he takes jabs at Trump for. He says, Golden Age update, 325,000 deportations for 2025. Trump bombed Nigeria, bombed Venezuela, threatening to bomb Iran again. Fifth Netanyahu visit, Trump wins Israel prize. Epstein files redacted, YouTubers doing the FBI's job, $5 billion for refugee resettlement. Now, Savannah Hernandez, who's also a contributor and commentator for Turning Point USA, also went viral after she threatened to stop paying her taxes. She says, F it, I'm not paying taxes this year. And then when the IRS comes after me, I'll blow that up into a huge national story about how the government will destroy your life over a couple $1,000s. Meanwhile, the Pentagon just failed their 8th straight audit in a row. Now, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene added some fuel to this fire, responding to the Post saying that this is how angry Americans are, and rightfully so. With nearly $40 trillion in debt and Social Security becoming insolvent in 2033. Now imagine if millions of Americans did this. Meaning, imagine if millions of Americans withheld their taxes because of the neglect of our federal government.
Okay, let's talk about this idea of withholding taxes. The anger is absolutely justified. 40 trillion in debt, Social Security on life support, it's enough to make anyone want to light their tax forms on fire. We're all feeling the squeeze, watching our hard-earned money disappear into a black hole of government waste, and frankly, the politicians in Washington seem more interested in virtue signaling and enriching themselves than actually solving problems. But here's the cold, hard truth. Refusing to pay taxes, while a powerful symbolic act, is ultimately like cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's a quick way to get the IRS knocking on your door, and it actually starves the very programs that, despite all the waste, do provide essential services for many Americans. We're not talking about just hurting the politicians. We're talking about hurting our own communities, our own families. The real target shouldn't be the system's lifeline, but the parasites feeding off it. Instead of crippling the entire government, let's get surgical. Why are we still footing the bill for lavish congressional salaries, gold-plated healthcare plans, and endless perks for people who barely show up to work and accomplish even less? If we want to hit them where it hurts, let's demand accountability by stripping them of their taxpayer-funded luxuries. Imagine a world where politicians actually had to live under the same rules and economic realities as the rest of us. No more government-funded healthcare while they deny it to citizens. No more exorbitant salaries for part-time work. That's the kind of targeted strike that would make them sit up and pay attention, without destroying the basic functions of government. Let's be smart about our outrage, not just loud.
And look, I've actually floated this before, and Cenk's like, this is not a good thing to do. And I ultimately do agree with him because our taxes fund programs that are important. I mean, part of the reason why I think Democrats caved when it came to the whole government shutdown battle is because people were going to lose their SNAP benefits and people were going to go hungry. Families and children were going to go hungry. So while I totally agree that our government has totally failed the American people, I think that refusing to pay taxes would further damage whatever's left of the government that they do somewhat effectively. But I want to fight back too. So I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of tinker with this so it causes less damage to programs that actually work while actually punishing the politicians who, I don't know, make decent salaries paid for by American taxpayers, get government funded healthcare, which they deny to the American people, of course. How about we focus on ways to deny our members of Congress the benefits and the perks that they get to take advantage of as they take half of the year off and then they spend the rest of the time simply fundraising or engaging in theater during these like committee hearings. The Hodge twins say at this point, there is no reason to pay taxes anymore. Then you have Graham Allen. The whole country should stop paying taxes until the corruption ends. Hit them where it hurts. Demand accountability by taking away their money.
So, There you have it. The political landscape is shifting, and while some are calling Marjorie Taylor Greene a lib, what we're really seeing is a fracture within the establishment, a growing resentment against the political class, regardless of party. It's a wake-up call that the old guard is crumbling and people are demanding more than just empty promises. What do you think? Are you tired of the political games? Are you ready for real accountability? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the political swamp. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and keep fighting for what's right.